Hello and welcome to our third episode of Keep It Science. I'm your host, Dr. Nick Gorn, and today we're going to be talking about a fantastic topic, fun. How can we communicate science in ways that aren't copy and pasted from generations past? How can we ensure that scientists stick in roles longer and that boredom doesn't creep in? How can we inspire the next generation of scientists to go beyond what we've done and innovate the future? Some of these are really big questions, and I'm hopeful that our guest today can have a stab at answering some of them for us. So we're thrilled to be joined by Dr. Raúl Peña, who many of you know from his Instagram, Research Goes Slowly, and Dr. Fernando Garcia, aka Dr. Banana or for Chucky. So thank you both for joining me, and I'd absolutely love to start by diving into your backgrounds. If you could both share a little bit about your unique paths in science and how you've incorporated creativity into your work. Fernando, I was hoping you could start.
Hey, hello, Nico, and thank you very much for the invitation. First of all, it's really exciting. So, well, I've been a researcher for over 20 years, actually, and I worked 10 of those 20 years in coffee, as a researcher in the coffee breeding program. Then I moved to bananas. I came to the Netherlands for a PhD, and then I moved to a more private company working also with bananas. And I think I've been a creative my whole life since I can remember. And when people start telling you all the time, like, you're very creative, you're talented, you start to believe that. So actually, before wanted to be a researcher, I wanted to make movies. I wanted to be related to more artistic fields, but I'm from Colombia, from a difficult country a few years ago, so it's a place where you cannot do what you want sometimes, so it's difficult. But in any case, during my time in coffee, I incorporate creativity on my presentations or my reports. When I went to conferences, I was like a different person. I tried to make better pictures, include videos when that was not really a thing. After that, all the social media started. So I remember Twitter, Facebook, and I said, like, oh, this is a great opportunity because I really want the world to know what we are doing, because it was very important, coffee, and essentially only my family and my colleagues knew what I was doing. So that was the first starting point for me, all the outcoming of the social media platforms to show to the world what we can do and try to show it in a different way.
Fantastic. Yeah, I think academic posters were one of those things that I also, used to very much just throw creative stuff on rather than the content at the time. But yeah, that's fantastic. Raúl?
Yeah, I can explain about my life. First of all, obviously, thank you so much for inviting me. I always say that I'm not sure that anybody is interested in what I'm going to say, but let's say my life, my path, and some ideas, no? I think that I have been a researcher since child. I think that my motivation comes from a magazine, from a scientific magazine to general public in Spain. It's called Investigación y Ciencia. Since that time, I think that I wanted to be a researcher. Then when I was older, little bit older, I study biology, make my PhD, and then make a brief postdoc, and then move into a lab manager position. I am still doing that, and now really I am something between postdoc and lab manager in a small lab, here in Barcelona, in the Hospital del Mar. And I think that I wanted to be always linked to research, and I want to be my future linked to research. And then, Fernando told that he wanted to be a movies director. I wanted to be always to be photographer. This is for clear. I wanted to be. I spent a lot of years of my life doing photography, during my PhD, during my postdoc. After that, in fact, I worked for several years as professional photographer. Okay, and then I started an appear, and then I wanted to show my pictures, my images. Okay, my photography, and don't succeed at all. Nobody cares about my photography. And then later transfer this account into science related, and slowly it goes up and people love it, and I still doing that. I don't know if I am so creative doing that because tend to say that what I'm doing is daily life. So it's not so creative. It's the things that happen to us in the lab. I put a video and the people feel connected to that, and that's it. How creative really I am or not.
Yeah, it's really interesting that you've both sort of said that there's other fields, other creative fields that you both wanted to go into as well. And I think I was the same. I think, it's not always the fact that this is a science degree, you're going to be just a scientist. And I think that's really important for people to know that you're not stuck. Continuing with yourself, Raúl, your Instagram page, Research Goes Slowly, and we'll do all of the links to all of your social pages at the end of the podcast. Research Goes Slowly shares short clips about everyday life, from the unbalanced centrifuge to the infamous Reviewer 2. Your page has grown tremendously in recent years, and you're now at last count at about 170,000 followers. It's known for being really fun and engaging, and I was just wondering whether you could share a bit about how you come up with some of your ideas and how you're able to sort of balance being a content creator and a full-time scientist.
Okay. How to balance? This is sometimes difficult depending on the week. You have a weeks that you have a lot of things to do, and you have another weeks in the lab that you are so calm because maybe our cells are slowly growing, or you need to analyze data in computers. So I try to manage in this way. Okay, I think that the engagement power of my account is not the aesthetic part of the video. It's more about the joke, the phrase that we add, and it's lately more about my faces. Sometimes that people feel connected to my weird faces. Okay, so and I lately use also to reuse some videos in some videos. I have a lot of videos in my phone recorded, and then when I get an idea and fits to any video that has been recorded in the past time, I try to reuse. And the second part of the ideas comes from watching videos from other people, but not strictly related to science. Sometimes it's like you are watching these reels, okay, and you say, okay, that phrase that is so funny, or that situation, how could I adapt to science? And then sometimes it's just changing a couple of words, or a sense of the phrase, and that's it.
Inspiration. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, inspiration. Yeah.
Inspiration, yeah.
And I think it's important. I think it's also Instagram. I don't know, probably TikTok is the same, no? It's just in trends.
Instagram was a copy of TikTok, actually, but...
Actually, it's true. Just because I go on through Instagram instead of TikTok, but the system is more or less the same. You have to adapt to the trends, the music, the phrases, the three first letter of a three first word that people are using in that particular week, no?
Exactly.
That's it.
Yeah, it's interesting what Raúl mentioned, because it's the same for me. Sometimes I spend time actually making a video, making it pretty. I think this is a great idea. Then it's not really successful. But when I post something like an inspiration from another completely different topic, but I adapted to science, is boom, like the great idea. But it's a matter of luck and timing, I will say.
Totally luck in this business.
Yeah. I suppose there's also sort of, with the TikTok era, you've got all of these trending sounds and things that you can use. And Raúl, we were talking about a video that you posted quite recently. So at time of recording this podcast, I think it only came out a day or two ago, with one of these TikTok trending sounds. And I'm not going to do an impression of what the sound is, and I couldn't tell you the song name. But yeah, it's just relating that content back to science and making it so related. Yeah.
You have to adapt, I think. I think to success in these platforms, you have to adapt. And you have to adapt to many things. The music, the trends, the phrases, the look, your own look. Sometimes you have to adapt to that. And there are some things that are in that moment, no?
Absolutely. And And Fernando, we've been connected for quite a while on Twitter and LinkedIn, and you were one of the first people I thought about when we said we were going to discuss this topic on Keep It Science, when I discussed it with the rest of the team. As a banana scientist, your content's been really informative to a lot of people because, there's an English phrase of you don't really know how the sausage is made. Mm-hmm. And I suppose yours is less sausage and more banana, but it's dead informative to people that don't particularly know anything about bananas themselves, but you're also very humorous with it and artistic as well, because you have your page where you draw, you're a cartoonist as well. So how do you think humor and art can not really just inform, but also help to demystify complex scientific concepts? Does it help with different types of learning?
It is very important. I think humor and art are completely connected to communication, and it doesn't matter in which area. And to put it in a context, I remember when I started to do, before it was called science communication, I was just doing it without knowing that had a name. And I was just doing what other scientists did at that moment, that was just sharing boring science, like the graphs that only your colleagues understand and probably the other person working on the same topic in the other side of the world, but that's it. That's the audience. So one day I decided, because there is another thing, it's a little bit different from my side, because before I started to do science communication, I already started doing videos about other topics. So I had my drawings, my collections, and my hobbies. And I had quite a lot of followers on YouTube. Even I managed to make money with YouTube at that time. So I was quite successful, but I didn't really use it for science. I used the typical thing, just posting, as I said, like graphs that the reach was 1, 2, 3 people. But then one day I decided to just give a big change and start using art, videos, being more visual. And then was the moment when I realized, oh, this works. So the same things I was doing with my hobby videos, I incorporated into the science. So for example, I remember one of the first things I did, like in 2006 probably, was to make a video drinking coffee, different type of coffee, and explaining why the coffee is different and making it funny. And it was like, boom, lots of views from many people. And then I said, okay, so this is the way to do it. So I started to use jokes similar to what Raúl is doing, even dancing, like doing TikTok before it was created. And that helped me a lot to grow. But at some point, I repeat this because it's quite important. And also Raúl mentioned about the limitations in some institutes. I was in one of those where what I was doing was not seen as a good thing at that time. It was like probably people thought I was losing time instead of working. And I made one of the biggest mistakes in my life, and that was stop doing what I was doing just because the fear to lose my job. So I was not supported. But then when I came to the Netherlands, it is a completely different environment. Actually, they encourage to do these kind of things, to explore the, creativity. And it was a second step in my life. Definitely, I started again in Wageningen University, and that was the moment when people start, because of all the things that I start to post on social media, call me Banana Man, Mr. Banana, Banana Doctor, and I have to admit that was quite no, it was not nice at the beginning. I didn't like it. It was embarrassing at some point, because imagine you are drinking coffee with your date and then people screaming, Dr. Banana. It happened to me many times at university. So it was a little bit embarrassing. But later I noticed that was a sign of appreciation, because I started to also receive presents related to banana. They said like, look, I found this thing. It's banana. I thought about you. So I started to make a collection of banana items. So the change was to stop thinking what other people think about what you do, and just explore your creativity and don't care about what others think. And I always say the same, because it's not for every person and not for every country. You have to adapt. But the thing is, you have to be happy at your work. You have to keep it fun, as you said, and as long as you're a good researcher. So in my case, I keep publishing papers. I do serious research, and when I have to be serious, I have to be serious because in some countries you have to. But when you are not in those environments, just explore the creativity.
That's wonderful. Yeah, I think I definitely saw lots of times where you'd receive banana gifts on Twitter and banana socks. You had you have a very good sock collection as well, don't you?
Exactly. Yeah, true.
I suppose continuing on that, in a world where sort of traditional science often emphasizes the facts and figures, and you've mentioned before about, you know, being very creative with your posters in academic settings. Did you find that they were always very well received?
In some opportunities, it was very clear that people didn't like it. So, but mostly old scientists, old school scientists that were in the first line of the conference, and they didn't like the jokes, for example, I made. They didn't like the analogies I used, and the cartoons I included in my presentation. So I noticed that there was a half, I would say. Young people, very excited because I got very good comments like, this was very nice, very clever. But at the same time, old people like, you have to be more serious. This is not the scenario. And then, you know, you have to balance. But this changed from country to country. I told my current bosses, and, you know, I know what I'm doing. I know in terms of communication, I'm careful. I'm not going to disclose any secrets. I'm just doing things to communicate what we are doing and why it's important, the work we are doing. And they are happy with that. So I'm very glad. But again, as Raúl mentioned, this is really can be an exception or change from country to country.
What I most love from academia is the freedom you have in some labs. And this is not in all the labs. And this is absolutely true. So when I explain and people ask, my boss say that, my supervision wants me, it's like, this is reality also. Your supervisor, especially to young people, have many powder on you. So
yeah,
it's extremely important to decide where you want to be. Which is your supervisor, which is your institution, if they support you, if your PhD program support people or not support supervisor. And this is totally different from here. I have in a 7-floor building, and each building is each floor is totally different, each lab is totally different. Between each lab, different supervisors are totally different. But if you are so lucky to be in a not perfect environment, but in a cool nice one,
yes, definitely
for you, and probably you will never move out because they give you a lot of freedom. You can do whatever every day, and you can manage to research reading what you want, but as you mentioned, in a serious way. At the end, your supervisor will take your project and say, okay, Raúl, focus, don't do that, do the other way around, do the other experiment, because you are opening too many branches, and at the end you have to make a conclusions in your experiments. But this is a good balance also, no? It's like you opening things and then they cut some things that are not so important for your key question, you know, and then focus on that. So it's not bad.
Yeah, I think you both sort of focused on a point that I hadn't really thought of, and it's the difference between your creative freedom between academia and industry. And, you know, there's some good competing views there. I think, you know, you're both able to put in as much creativity as you want into your work, and that's being pushed to the maximum now.
Yeah.
I think for many roles, especially here in the UK, I would say that if you don't go into a particularly creative role, I've been quite lucky. I've worked in creative roles as soon as I left my PhD. But I would say that creativity is kind of stifled in normal industry roles. So it's absolutely fantastic to hear that they are in the Netherlands. So it's a big shout out to the Netherlands, Fernando.
Yeah,
that you're being told, yes, be creative because this is good for the image of the company, or it's good for your own mental health to keep the excitement with your role. So, you know, I think that is fantastic, and it's something that we could definitely talk about, making sure roles are way more creative and people are looked after, and, you know, in these types of roles in the UK. Moving forward, Raúl, I wanted to ask you about for any sort of aspiring science influencers out there that are listening to this right now, whether you could give us a little background on how to start growing a channel?
In a world where the tiniest elements make the biggest impact, where curiosity leads to groundbreaking discoveries, it's time to delve deeper than ever before. Welcome to Under the Microscope, the podcast that zooms into the captivating world of materials and nanoscience. With each episode, you meet a scientist working in the field of materials or nanoscience. On Under the Microscope, the scientist candidly talks about their career journey, their favorite research experiment, and their 3 wishes to improve the world. Check out Under the Microscope on your favorite podcast app.
The ground up. So, obviously you didn't explode overnight. It's taken a long time, a lot of hard work. So how did you first sort of get started, and what really helped you gain that traction from the start?
So I told you, I started Instagram to show my photography, and in fact, nobody cares. And that's reality, okay? And then my personal life changes because I have kids, and then I have no time to make as much photography. And then they say, okay, I love photography in any case. I have a phone. My phone has a camera, so I can go to the lab and make pictures, because at the end, a lab is a very colorful and aesthetic environment, if you have a look. And then I create really cool pictures, and then I started to post them, okay? And I started to post, and then in the caption of Instagram, I started to explain experiments, chemistry of reactions, how the cells grow, which kind of cells we have, which kind of experiments, group pictures, and everything. And the channel doesn't go really bad, I feel. I think I get more than 20,000 followers doing that. So it's not bad, okay? And was a little bit surprising because science in general, explain it at the way I did in that moment, was not so engaging for people out of science. And my intention, in fact, was to open science to general public. But the way maybe I try to explain the caption in a general way and don't use too many technical words. But at the end, I focus that the people that interact with me was absolutely all scientists. Okay, so it's difficult to engage general public doing science. In fact, I consider that the work of Fernando, many other science communicators, is so hard. How to explain this daily science work to general public and engage people with that is hard work. Yeah, it's amazing and fantastic the work you're doing, because I saw people doing really nice work with a huge audience, okay? But you have to adapt to that. You have to adapt to the audience, the manner to communicate, okay? And in my case, was exactly the same, okay? So in one moment, I don't remember which was the exact moment, I create a couple of videos making a little bit of fun and joke. And then I realized that people started to engage a lot, comment a lot, send me message and make a lot of comments. No, it's the way that this social media, is telling you that you are getting a little bit of success. And then my tip for everybody when doing that is this is a very critical point. Because in my case, I wanted to be famous, say, in my photography, and I didn't do that. And then I wanted to be famous in somehow sharing what are we doing in our lab, and I get a little bit success at the end. I feel that, okay. But if you want to really reach to many people and make a little bit of success, you have to adapt to your audience. And this is the critical point. This is for me, it's very critical, okay? Why? Because maybe what the people love from you is not what you want to offer to the audience. And this is your decision. And this is a very important decision. Afterwards, your channel can grow or not. Independently if you choose doing that or whatever, it can grow or not. But you have to be very conscious of that. That is, social media is not about, for me, it's not about what you offer. It's about if what you are offering is loved by the people.
Fernando, I'd like to sort of open that question up to you as well with the sort of sub-question of, do you think the digital boom that we've had has has helped scientists more to grow and more to share their passion for science with the public?
Yes, definitely yes. And it was mentioned already what that is very important, the audience and what you want to see. We always talk in social media about a few topics that help you to grow, like the niche, the collaboration with other content creators, and that's essentially true. But now, what changed everything again, because it wasn't steps, right? So we have the Facebook, we have the Twitter, we have YouTube, and for many years I was with 1,000 followers for years. And the moment I started to, because remember I told you I stopped for some time, but then when I started again with bananas, it grew amazingly, and everything was related with humor, with art. And I remember very, very clear, I was similar to Raúl with my pictures. I thought that my pictures were great, and it's true. Nobody cares. You have to be different, and that's the most difficult thing in Instagram. The great idea you have, somebody else already did it.
Sorry for interrupting, but it's not that somebody has done that. It's that somebody is doing better than you.
Yeah, exactly. But for example, in my case, I said, okay, I'm a banana researcher, and I'm an artist. I'm going to draw in bananas. So I started to do it, and then I saw somebody else did it, and it's very successful. So I don't want to copy. So I stopped with that idea, which was great, according to me. And then I said, okay, what can I do? So I started to share daily life in the lab. At that time, I was a PhD student, and I had a lot of time, and same as Raúl, filming everything and then finding the right moment to post it. And I grew immediately a lot. People love it. People start loving my jokes, my drawings, my daily life at the greenhouse, telling about the problem. And another thing that I changed in my mind was what I told you also at the beginning. At some point I said, scientists don't need me to explain anything. They know, they have the access to papers, they can read it, they understand. So I decided to change my audience to general public. And it was great. So people really I got comments. For example, I remember one of the most important that made me give me more inspiration. Was somebody who told me, I hate bananas, but what you're doing is great. I didn't know this. I love it. I love your content, but I just don't like bananas. But please keep doing it. So that was the best comment at that time. And then just try to keep doing it. And yeah, that was the moment when I said, okay, I have to make something different, be original. But then the next boom was TikTok. With TikTok, it's very easy to reach huge audiences. So I moved to TikTok, and again, in just, I think in 2 days, 30,000 followers, just by doing funny videos. But what Raúl mentioned about the audience is very true, because I don't have the same audience in other platforms as in Instagram, because Instagram for me is very special. I like it very much because, at least from my environment, is very friendly. Unfortunately, Instagram completely changed because it was only pictures at some point, and then incorporated videos, and then now it's another TikTok, which is good because we at least for myself, what I want to show is that to show to the world my research and try to also how do you say that, the book, so many things that are wrong about there are lots of videos and pictures of bananas. It's very popular fruit. I would say 90% of those videos are fake. So I try to also communicate on that, trying to say, hey, look, this is not true. And the problem is that when I decided to take it more serious was when I saw that some information could actually be dangerous for human health. So I said, look, this is not true. So bananas are not curing cancer. Just stop saying that. Is something serious. So another important topic to say now is that if I thought this boom of communication, TikTok, Instagram, help us to communicate, also helps to misinformate. So it helps many people to get the information wrong.
Yeah. We talked about the rigidity of the traditional academic framework, let's say, and especially in the UK, it feels, like there is at some points a lack of creativity. Raúl, I'll start with you if that's all right. Is there a good piece of advice that you could give to a scientist that would like to incorporate more creativity or scientific communication into their traditional academic framework?
It's complicated. I mean, I will say that if you want success in social media, you need to look for an idea that engages people. And this is what we mentioned before. Most of these ideas are already running around social media, no? Is that you can create jokes, you can explain science in a highly communicative way, you can explain what you are doing in the lab, why don't, and you can success on that or not. I think that the important issues for scientists, for one part, is just to be honest what we are doing, but also be original in the way to communicate. I think that most of the original ways to do that are around the table, so you have a look. And then it's important to watch what other people are doing, how you feel doing that, and how you fit in that. But I mean, I have discussed this with many people. It's in fact, but it's difficult to predict for me success of any account. I can say I can analyze in the other way around. That account or that people are doing that and they succeed because of that. This is easy for everybody. Raúl is funny, so has success. Yeah, real. But there are many people making fun. Why don't other people succeed? And I think that the best advice is be open to modify what you are doing. Be open to in order to really success, be open to interact with people and accept that what you are doing maybe is not the best way to succeed in social media. I think that most of the people that at least in my channel are watching me are very young people, and they have another different way to communicate between them. This is real. It takes time to understand that, because I am an older generation, before Google, before whatever you think, before internet. And these young people are totally different from me. So you have to adapt to that. But it's complicated. I have this discussion with my hospital communicators and some other institution. How we can promote our channels? And I say, you can do that and that, but be open that probably it will not work. And this is complicated, because when you say that to any scientist, you say, okay, if you do that technique very good, you have a good idea and you have many results, you will publish in Nature. It's like a logical act, but it's not true. You can do that and don't publish in Nature. So social media is exactly the same. I can copy the idea of Fernando, do similar videos about cancer, and don't succeed at all, because there are many people doing that. And some part of the social media success is a random fact. It's just one day it explodes. Why? I can understand that, but it happens. Me and from some other people. I mean, sometimes you take one guy and you take them 3 months later and say, oh, you have a lot of new followings. Why? You are exactly doing the same that the last year. It explodes, and that's it. And you can take benefit in somehow about that, no? To create a more engaging channel and to arrive your message to other people, but you will not control it, and you have to know that.
So I wanted to actually open it up to Fernando on this one, because you mentioned earlier about someone that came to you and said, I don't like bananas, but carry on doing what you're doing. Any memorable experience that you've had where a creative approach, what you've put out there into the world, what the content that you've done has had a significant impact on someone's perception of science or bananas, and even inspired them to sort of pursue something alternate in the science career universe?
Yes, apart from this experience that I told you of the message of this person, I got multiple messages when when you're doing this work, because it's a work that you do for free. I consider this as a second job, and and it requires time, requires tenacity, sometimes frustrations. But when you get those messages from people, it's just great. Like you're an inspiration. These kind of things really touch my heart. And it's like the moment I stop receiving these kind of messages, probably is the moment I had to stop doing it. But so far, it's always the same. It's so nice. The love of people for what I'm doing that is keeps me motivated to do it. And the other experience is when I start dressing as banana, for example, for some of the lessons, or in the greenhouse, wearing my banana socks. It's very interesting to see, for example, at university and even now here at the company is, hey, Fernando, look. And they show me their socks with their own crops, for example, rice, sunflowers. Like I'm inspiring people in a way. And that's nice because because the science communication is not for everyone. And if we want to give an advice to somebody else, it's like, if you don't want to do it, just don't do it. If you don't feel like doing it. But if you want to do it, just try. Because it's very satisfactory, this situation.
That's a fantastic thing to do. And so, you're a fashionista as well.
Easy. Indeed. Yes, it's funny to see all my colleagues wearing banana socks. So it's something so simple, but at the same time, it's huge. Yeah. You influence people in a nice way.
Yeah, that's got to feel really, really good. And I'm going to go out and buy myself a pair of banana socks now too. Raúl, kind of same question for you, really. Is there, you've been doing this for quite a long time on Instagram, and have you had feedback that you've done the same things?
Yeah. For me, it's almost the same, Fernando. I think that the best part is people. No, I think that social media is social media, and we have to think about that. For me, it's so successful and so. Enjoyable with people send me message saying that they love my videos. They are passing through the same points that I highlight in my videos. That my videos help them to be more motivated, to work hard in the lab. For me, it was surprising the first time any people contact me and say, "Oh, Raúl, I saw your videos." And then when I am depressed, and some people tell me, when I am depressed in the lab, I go home checking your videos like a loop. And the first time I say, why? It's necessary. I making stupid jokes, it's funny for a time, but it's nothing else. But people say, you encourage me to reset.
Yeah.
And it's like, maybe it's true. Yeah. I don't know why, but maybe it's true. And it's so satisfactory for us, for communicate. And also I am so lucky also because I don't have any hater in my camp. This concept that people you told in TikTok or in Twitter, the people criticize you every moment. I haven't any time. In fact, I have one 2 weeks ago, and I make a screenshot of the comment and highlight on stories to say, hey, people, at the end I have one. So I am so famous because people hate me, and then I get tons of messages from many people who will say, forget about that, you are doing great, blah, 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 blah. And I say, that's real. People, I don't know why, connect with this account and have the audacity to write to Raúl without knowing who is him. Maybe Raúl is an artificial intelligence generated meme itself. But people write me and say, oh, I am so happy looking that you encourage me, you motivate me every day. And it's like, welcome, thanks. I don't know how to reply to those messages. It's the best. The people are the best.
I suppose there's a whole other podcast of questions I can ask you about the negativity online and things like that. But we're keeping it fun. So we're not going to go into those ones. We're keeping it, all the positivity and inspiration and innovation that you guys have done. And kind of on that, I suppose as we're talking about fun, and this is keep it science and keep it fun, where I was wondering whether you guys had a really good fun science fact that you're always able to pull out and it cheers people up or anything like that. But any kind of really good science fact that you've got to share with our listeners. Nothing about the extinction of bananas, please, Fernando.
Well, it's probably not very fun, but something that I like to tell in social media to my new followers is because they always say like, I love the banana tree or something like that. And so I always say like, bananas are not trees, but herbs. It's the giant herb, and it's the only herb that gives you 30 kilos of food. So respect. But I do it in a funny way. So they say, I didn't know. And then, of course, that gives me the opportunity to continue because when somebody asks me about bananas, I cannot stop talking. So be careful.
That's a great one. And Raúl?
Okay, I don't have any fun fact, but I can tell you the typical joke that we make in the lab. I think that is a particular joke of cancer researchers, and we make very often. It's like sometimes when you are so depressed and demotivated and want to make like a stupid joke, we always say, we look at ourselves in the lab and think something like, do you imagine that tomorrow we will cure cancer and we will go on holiday forever? And for us, it's so funny to think about that because we are always working a lot. It's like we need to rest in any way, and the best way will be curing cancer, Yeah. It's so funny for us. I know that is a very particular joke. I mean, but it's in this way. We are in this way.
It reminds me, there's a quote from one of my favorite comedians, a guy called Dr O'Brien, and he says, scientists don't know everything, but they know they don't know everything. Otherwise, they just stop. And can't stop. Research goes slowly. Research continues. We're always going perpetually towards further knowledge, but never complete knowledge. So thank you for those two. So I guess there you have it. We've got 2 fun facts, 2 fun scientists, and a whole lot of science being discussed. I'd like to thank our guests again for spending some time with us and telling us all about their lives inside and outside of the lab. You can learn more about both of our guests on their social media pages. So Raúl is on Instagram at Research Goes Slowly, and Raúl Peña on LinkedIn. For Dr. Banana, Fernando, you can find him on Twitter, LinkedIn, YouTube, and TikTok, and we will list all of his usernames in the description of this podcast. If you have a fun story and want to get involved with the podcast, you can reach out to myself or my regular co-host, Elizabeth Kugler, on the Keep It Science social pages, or email us at keepitscience@gmail.com. Until next time, keep exploring, keep it science, and keep it fun.
In place of a sponsor for this week, we'd like to do a little shout out for Raúl's Institute, Hospital Del Mar Research Institute, which is celebrating their 75th anniversary this year. That's 7.5 decades of groundbreaking research, innovation, and dedication to improving healthcare and well-being for Spain and across the globe. Whether you're a healthcare professional, a scientist, or simply someone who values the advancement of medical knowledge, the Hospital Del Mar Research Institute has been at the forefront of research that has paved the way for medical breakthroughs and innovations in Spain and beyond. So if you're interested in the latest developments in medical research, and if you appreciate the incredible work that this institute has done over the years, consider visiting their website or following them on social media to stay updated on how they keep it science every day.